Hi everyone, I'm Alicia from DIY Home and Health. This weekend my husband and I will be renovating our hallway bathroom. The previous owners, as you can tell, had kids. They painted a lovely shade of pink, but we want to make something a little bit more neutral, and to increase the value of the home we also are going to be redoing the flooring, adding some finishing touches, and of course updating this countertop and sink basin, which is actually one material. Now this video is sponsored by Homax. They actually sent me their new improved formula for their toughest tile refinishing kit. It comes with either white or bisque coloring. I decided to do white since it matches the toilet. You can also get it in spray or paint form. Spray might be more beneficial if you're doing, say, a tub, but since we're only going to be doing the countertop and the sink, I decided to go with the brush-on formula. Now this refinishing kit comes with a few things. First off, instructions. Very helpful to always read the instructions before actually getting to do the product, because you will need a few things from the store that you might not have at home, such as a plastic drop cloth, a mask for any of the fumes, glasses to wear to protect your eyes, especially this is important if you're doing the spray version of the formula. It also comes with surface preparation cleaner to make sure you get everything off of the countertop and prepare it to make sure that the epoxy paint sticks as well as possible. If you have any dents in, like, say, your porcelain basin or in your tub, Homax also does porcelain chip fixes that you'll have to purchase as well. Also in the refinishing kit, they give you gloves to protect your hands, and then steel wool for cleaning, and then of course the product itself, toughest tile. Since the sink and the countertop are actually one, if I was going to be renovating this completely from scratch, it would cost me hundreds of dollars to get a new sink and a new countertop. But instead, with Homax's toughest tile epoxy refinishing kit, I can give it a brand new look, and it only costs me around $30 to $50 depending on whether you choose the brush on or the spray. And now the Homax Toughest Tile is sold at Home Depot or Lowe's, so you can go to your local store and pick it up there. Before I get started, I wanted to go through my action plan to how I'm going to be renovating this bathroom. So first off, I'm going to go through and rub with the sandpaper grit, and I'm just going to be going over the walls to make sure if there's any grooves or any holes that need to be filled, I'll fill those in as well, and make sure everything's smooth. Then I'm going to wash the walls with a white vinegar and water solution, sponge them down, and then wipe them clean with a microfiber cloth to make sure that no fuzzies get on the wall and get stuck in the paint. After I paint everything, I will then proceed to clean the countertop and get it ready for the toughest tile refinishing kit. I'll paint the countertop there, and then I'll proceed to do the bottom part here of the cabinet and repaint that, and maybe even while I'm sanding the walls I might sand down some of this countertop to get it prepared for painting as well. And then lastly, we'll be redoing the flooring and getting a few finishing touches in the room. This all will be also detailed on my blog, DIYHomeHealth.com, so be sure to go over there for all the details. Now that the bathroom is painted, we can start preparing our counter and sink to put on the Homax Toughest Tile epoxy paint. Before we actually paint it, we have to do some things to prepare the surface. The first thing I did was raise the temperature to 72 degrees. The paint needs to be applied and needs to cure in temperatures of 70 to 80 degrees with less than 80% humidity. I'm also going to be using rubbing alcohol. The first thing I'm going to do is scrub all the top part with rubbing alcohol, getting all the gunk and dirt off. Then I'll rinse it with water. And then I'm actually going to use the cleaning supplies that they give you as part of the finishing kit that I'll be placing in warm water, and then using that with a steel wool that they also provide to scour the entire top part and the sink, anywhere that I'm going to be applying the toughest tile paint to make sure that we get a really good stick. Afterwards, I'll rinse it with water one more time and then use a microfiber cloth so it doesn't leave any residue or little pieces of steel wool. Before I painted, I actually used a caulking tool to scrape off all the caulk from the counter and from the side so that we can get a really clean finish. And then I also have silicone caulk to finish it off with to give it a really nice finish after it dries for 48 hours. The counter and sink are finally clean, and as you can tell, I applied the masking tape to the wall and the faucet and the drain so that paint doesn't get on anything we don't want it to. Homax Toughest Tile recommends using a 2 to 3 inch polyester brush, something that's very clean, doesn't have any residue paint on it. They recommend doing 2 coats. The first coat acts more as a primer, so you'll even be able to probably see some of the countertop coming through. That's okay, you don't have to apply it on thick. The second coat that you'll put on will give it that nice glossy porcelain-like finish. In between coats, timing is really critical, so after my first coat I'm going to wait 3 hours, and then at that 3-hour mark I can start applying the second coat. It needs to be applied between that 3-hour mark and a 6-hour mark after the first coat has applied. If you go past that 6 hours after applying the first coat, they recommend to call Homax because at that point it might not set as well, so they'll walk you through what to do next. So I'm going to apply it right now. It is about 3 o'clock, so I'll be applying the second coat at around 6 o'clock tonight. So here we go, we're going to start painting. I have opened up the Homax Toughest Tile epoxy paint, and I've stirred it with a clean stir stick. So I'm going to move this onto the counter itself so it doesn't drip. I'm going to start at the corner here. Just going to put on a very light layer. You gotta be careful because I start to see it drip. Good thing we have the plastic drop cloth on the bottom here. Now I can already tell that it's starting to dry and get a little bit sticky, which means once you put down that first layer, you really can't make any corrections that aren't immediate. So it's now been 3 hours since I did my first coat of the Homax Toughest Tile epoxy paint. And as you can tell, you can see a little bit of the sink below and the streaks are kind of uneven. So I'm hoping that this second coat will really even it all out and give it that nice sheen white look. It's now been 48 hours since I placed the second coat of the Homax Toughest Tile epoxy paint on, and I wanted to give you guys a few tips. First off, when using the Homax Toughest Tile, definitely make sure you have a respirator. It's really important that the area is well ventilated because of the fumes. I had the window open, afterwards I put on the fan, really got the air circulating. Even if you're doing this at home, I would put the fan on outside of the bathroom just to circulate the air out there, and then once you're finished you can put it in. Just make sure that if you have a window open, the temperature stays consistent with the 70 degrees, so you may want to do this type of renovation in spring or late summer or fall where you can have that window open and it won't put too much humidity inside as well. You got to be careful of that too. Secondly, when you're painting, you want to make sure that you have really light, long strokes, and I found that it's best if you work from seam to seam. So for example, as the basin kind of comes down here, I worked from the edge here to the seam, and that made sure that all the little brush strokes kind of went away. One thing I will say is if you're a perfectionist, you may want to rethink about using this product or kind of let go of your perfectionism for a little bit, because for me, I am a perfectionist as well, and when I started doing the second coat, I would see things after I painted over it, and I re-looked through the entire sink afterwards, and after the 2-minute mark, after you put that paint down, you really can't make any changes because if you try to reapply, it'll get all nasty. And so I'll see like a sagging mark and I would try to like fix it, and it just took forever because the more I tried fixing it, the worse it became. But don't worry, once it cures after those 48 hours, those brush strokes actually disappear. So don't freak out if you see them at first. They do go away. I think the only thing I probably did that I would want to redo was up here. It was really hard to get on this upper part, especially with the faucet. So looking around, I probably would have removed the faucet before applying. One other thing I wanted to mention as well is it's really important to have that second unused paintbrush, and maybe even a third, just in case you have to do that third layer, because I actually used my old paintbrush because the other one that I had, I realized after the fact wasn't the material that they recommend for a paintbrush. So when I started painting with it, some of the bristles actually came out on the paint. I was like, oh no! So I kind of took those bristles off with my gloves, and then just got the old paintbrush, which was soaking in water at the time. And even though I wasn't supposed to do that, and I'm sure this product actually probably would have worked better if it was a new brush, it actually looks great, even though it was the older brush that I had to end up using so that the bristles wouldn't come out. So really important to also get those polyester brushes and not any other type of brushes, and making sure that you have two unused ones. And yes, you'll probably end up throwing them both out afterwards because this stuff is pretty hard to clean off of the paintbrush. But you can try lacquer thinner if you want to try to get it off the paintbrush. Overall though, I think the sink looks way better than it did before, and I would definitely recommend the product for DIYers. Just make sure you have a well ventilated area, and you hold back on your perfectionism a little bit to allow for some areas that might not look like perfect porcelain. Probably my fault because of that paintbrush. So now that the sink is done, I'm actually going to finish with the cabinetry and the flooring, and the renovation will be done.